Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of Jas Waters. She was a journalist, I believe, a television writer, and she passed away at the age of 39. Sadly, I want to talk about her astrology chart, some placements in her natal chart and transits, which might have been tied in to this. The first thing I want to say, though, of course, is that I offer my condolences to her family and friends if they happen to see this video. It's just terrible. You hear a lot of stories about people, very young people passing away. Now, when I time of this video, I didn't see there. I don't believe it was divulged or disclosed as far as the reason for her death, how she actually died. We could speculate somewhat. I think I'm hoping this wasn't a suicide. I think it is possible though, because based on some things I saw in her chart, and it's obviously there's some mystery connected with this. In her chart, she does have the Black Moon, Lilith, and Libra conjunct Pluto. That could indicate, I mean, in some cases, it could be a death through some kind of nefarious means or sinister means. It falls in the 12th house in the solar sunrise chart. I don't have her time of birth, of course, so I had to improvise once again and do a solar slash sunrise chart. She is a sun in Libra, October 21st, 1980. She was born in Evanston, Illinois. Um, the thing about this too is another thing that I took note of when I looked at the solar sunrise chart. Well, her transit moon in Aquarius was close to her natal south node in Aquarius at the time of this announcement of her death. And the thing about this is this could manifest in a number of ways. When you're talking about the South Node being involved in transit one way or another, it can indicate energy we may be getting away from. This was in the fourth house of the end of life. You're talking about the moon is the public, and it could also be emotional energy. When you're talking about transit moon hitting one's south node, this could be something also that could be very dissipating and depleting emotionally. It might have been something that may have been because South Node energy is what's pulling away. It's what's being taken from people. Her emotional energy may have been very zapped at this time, and it might have been in Aquarius. It might have been attributed to friends, maybe matters with her goals or aspirations, the internet, perhaps social media. And sadly, I mean, this does fall in the fourth house of the end of life in the solar sunrise chart. So it just makes you wonder if she may have taken her own life. I hope that wasn't the case. But no matter how you look at it, it's something that causes a lot of despondency and sadness at this time. And the thing about this is at this time as well, I mean, she had transit sun in Gemini in that eighth house in the solar sunrise chart. Of course, that could be the focus on one's passing or death at this time. The fact it's in Gemini, obviously something where people would talk about this possibly very loquaciously, very and really and a lot of obviously be involved in a lot of conversation, communication in the news and in the media. Given that this was in Gemini, the fact it's making an opposition to her natal Neptune could indicate that part of the reason why a lot of this can be somewhat blurry, nebulous, and unclear, seeing the manner in that this actually happened may have been a little bit, again, nebulous or obscure and unclear at this time. Now, something else I did notice too was the fact that, I mean, okay, she also, when I was talking before about her having the Black Moon Lilith conjunct her Pluto, she also had Pluto conjunct the Sun. And remember that Pluto can be about death, it can be about obliteration. The Sun can be about life. And the fact that in the solar sunrise chart, Pluto is in the 12th house, this could add some mystery to this. The 12th house is also the house of suicide, so I'm hoping this was not a suicidal situation. Somebody I know on social media had written me and stated, tweeted me actually, and stated that there were some issues she was dealing with anxiety. Now this did come from one source, but this is what was stated to me. So it may, I mean, maybe she was going through some anxiety, and it's sad that they're not. I mean, the fact that they're not stating it's not being disclosed the manner of death. Maybe the family might be suppressing this and holding this back for some reason. But again, maybe perhaps she was going through some anxiety issues. The thing about this, I noticed too, that the ruler of her 12th house in the solar sunrise chart is Venus, and so was the ruler of the 8th house of death. So I wonder if this could be an indicator. Again, it could be something that could give a propensity toward an end of life to death that might be tied into one taking their own life. And I really hope that this was not the case, because she obviously had a very flourishing and thriving career. She was very popular, and she had, I mean, a lot of fans, and she was somebody that did, I believe it was like writing in Hollywood, and did I mean, I believe she wrote for like some movies. And this was this is something, of course, that's very devastating and very traumatic. At this time, she also had transit. Saturn was in that 3rd house in the solar sunrise chart, and the thing about that is that could be an indicator of, or it could suggest perhaps really some despondency in thinking. Remember, the 3rd house does rule the rational mind. Saturn can be connected with depression and sadness and sorrow and dejection. So this is something that maybe there might have been some limitations with the rational mind at this time. She also had transit Pluto in that 3rd house as well, and it was also making a loose square to her natal sun at the time of her passing. Sadly, she also, another thing I noticed in her chart, she also has at Chiron in Taurus, but retrograde. So that could be sometimes self-inflicted pain, and I'm hoping that, again, that this is not something that happened where she had done herself. And I was looking at the transit of Neptune at the time. That wasn't making, it wasn't in conjunct her sun. It wasn't in that 6th house either. I don't think this came from, I don't believe this came from the coronavirus. I think that would be unlikely if one was to speculate on as far as her passing. But I believe we'll know something about the manner in which she died, likely sooner than later, by the time tomorrow comes, which of course is going to be Thursday, June 11, 2020. And it's another thing too. What I noticed in her chart, this is not about her death, but I noticed that she had Mercury conjunct Uranus in her natal chart, and that could be an indicator of very innovative thinking. It tells me the fact it's in Scorpio, it could be something with Scorpio related. It wouldn't, I mean, she probably never did this, but it wouldn't surprise me if she would have had an ability for learning, for being able to come up with maybe new ideas for as far as forensics may go, DNA analysis, things like this, for forensic analysis, things of that nature, and far as solving crimes, or maybe even writing. She might have been somebody that was could be very innovative in terms of writing, like maybe mysteries, given that this is in Scorpio, or doing things of mechanical nature at a very high level, because Scorpio energy can be about mechanical skill or things associated with recycling, or anything that could be, again, that could be Scorpio related. This is something too. I mean, you look at, because remember, Scorpio is the sign connected with death. It's also associated with investigation, I would say forensics as well. And I wouldn't surprise me if she could have made very good contributions to forensic technology and what have you. And this is something where, again, going back to her, I mean, this is obviously very sad. As far as what happened to her, And it's just terrible when you hear about stories like this, when somebody dies at a very relatively young age in their life. She had the North Node in Leo in the 10th house, then in the solar sun, not to be redundant, but in the solar/sunrise chart. So it's not surprising that her future was tied into a career in entertainment and something where she gained certain acclaim, notoriety, and exposure. And thing is, and she also had, and again, this solar sunrise chart, now I mean, she had Leo on the 10th house cusp, which of course could indicate a career in entertainment and in something where she was going to get some kind of acclaim and notoriety. The ruler of the 10th house was in the first house, the sun in Libra, and because of course when you do a solar sunrise chart, the sun is going to be at the same position as the ascendant. And it's not surprising. I mean, I'm sure that her attained fame and acclaim and getting accolades, recognition for career-related achievements was certainly something that had significance on a first impression. So anyway, people, there's really not much more I have to say about this. It's just sad that this was taking place. I mean, that this went down. And another thing I wanted to say is that she also, based on the solar sunrise time of birth, she had transit Neptune making a loose conjunction to her natal, to the moon in Pisces, and that can also be something where you could feel some kind of emotional drainage at that time. And being in Pisces, it might have been something connected with chaos, or was it something that was associated? I don't know if it would be, with photography, or maybe some kind of, it might have been isolation. I mean, it's in Pisces, there's some confinement. Given that it's in Pisces, of course, it could be, I mean, a number of reasons dealing with some kind of confusion that may have been going on in her life. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.